Rwanda's defense force has denied involvement and support any activities of ex-M23 armed groups who are accused by authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo of waging recent attacks in the Northern Kivu region. The villages of Chanzu and Runyoni were attacked on Sunday night. Rwanda and Uganda were both previously accused of supporting the March 23 movement, or M23, but both countries have denied this. The Congolese army has pinned blame for Sunday's attack on M23 rebels, but the group has denied any involvement. The group had a powerful insurgency in the country in 2012, but was defeated by the national government's forces in 2013. For a little bit more on this story, we're now joined by Colonel Ronald Rivanga, who's the spokesperson for Rwanda's Defence Force. Thanks so much indeed for joining us and welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, so what is your official position in terms of M23 and the Eastern DRC and these attacks that took place this last weekend?
First of all, the Rwanda Defense Force is neither involved in or supports any activities of ex-M23 armed group. It was reported that an armed group believed to be ex-M23 rebels on Sunday evening at around 7 p.m. On the 7th of November crossed into DRC from Ugandan territory at a place called Bunagana, where it is based, and attacked and occupied the villages of Chanzu and Runyoni. The ex-M23 group in question did not seek refuge in Rwanda during their retreat from the DRC in 2013, but has been based in Uganda from where this attack originated and to where the armed group eventually retreated during the engagements. So any reports, either in the media or by officials in the region, stating that the ex-M23 armed group originated from or retreated to Rwanda is propaganda, very false. And it's aimed certainly at undermining the good relations between Rwanda and the DRC.
Have you ever had a relationship with the M23 in the past?
Yes, we have, but it was a different group altogether. The group that went to Uganda is the same group that has crossed from Bunagana. The ones that were engaged with were officially communicated to the authorities, and measures were taken in repatriating them. So this particular group that crossed from Uganda to DRC is not the group that came to Rwanda.
So are we suggesting that this group might have Ugandan ties rather?
Clearly, because of the point at which they entered. Bunagana is not in Rwanda, and this is not the place that Rwanda would certainly involve itself with. So that's why clearly this information was twisted for a very sinister agenda.
You talk about a different group of M23s. Were they ever united or were they always separate?
Clearly, they probably separated at the time of retreat. And the ones we received were communicated and measures were taken to, repatriate them. So clearly you can see that this group, the nature of entry, the point of entry was clearly not on our side. Bunagana is on the Ugandan side.
Now, this eastern DRC border is quite volatile and it has been for a good number of years. Is the Rwandan army involved in any kind of defense activity on the border?
On our side, yes, we are. We are quite vigilant in ensuring that these elements do not cross inside our territory. So, yeah, we cater for our side of the border.
You've never had cause to cross the border in dealing with any rebels or insurgents?
Except recently, accidentally, as we communicated when we were pursuing smugglers. But it was accidental. And we communicated with the authorities and the issue was settled.
Are you involved with any rebel groups inside the DRC at this time?
No, we are not.
No funding, no support, no arming?
Absolutely none.
Why is Rwanda then being pulled into this story? And it's not the first time. It seems to be a theme that recurs from time to time.
Clearly, I think the language that people speak tends to deceive people, that we have associations with these groups. They speak Kinyarwanda, but there are many communities in DRC and Uganda that speak Kinyarwanda. But this doesn't necessarily attach us to them. So people must understand the geopolitics of the region, the languages, the culture, the similarities between these communities, and should not confuse them in any way with our association with them.
Some analysts and historians want to suggest that the current situation perhaps has its history even as far back as the 1994 genocide, when Hutus fled into DRC as refugees, and they were mixed with some Hutu militia in there, and that over time one doesn't quite know where and what some of these remnants are doing, and that perhaps they're still a threat to your country.
Clearly, yes, the exfil is still there, and the DRC is doing a good job in trying to ensure that they deal with the problem. We have been talking quite a lot. We work together with them to look at ways in which we could deal with the problem. Clearly, the problem is quite big, and we are concerned about it. But there are good strides being taken by the DRC to deal with the problem. So these elements are still there.
You were involved in the DR Congo wars, 1 and 2, and I just wonder what might have been the consequences of your involvement in those wars.
One of the positive consequences was that there was a reduction in incursions by the exfil into Rwanda. Our operations had an impact in dealing with the insurgency and the post-insurgency period when we pursued them into the DRC. So you can see that there is peace and tranquility in Rwanda. So those are the positive consequences of our engagements in the DRC at the time. But as time went on, we withdrew and we protected ourselves from our borders.
All right, so what do you know about the ex-M23s that of the groups that perhaps you supported? Where are they? Are they still active? Where are they?
They were clearly demobilized in 2013. So the fact that some can come up is something that needs to be discussed with the DRC officials and with the groups themselves, especially those that went to places, specific places, such as our neighboring country. Discussions have to be taken in order to deal with the problem.
From your, I mean, you know, you can only tell us so much, I guess, as far as intelligence is concerned, but from your understanding, who predominantly is operating in the east of the DRC that you have to constantly keep an eye on, that are causing the chaos and mayhem that we're reporting on all the time?
Clearly, that's not a question I would probably answer. The DRC officials should be able to provide a good intelligence picture of the groups, the multitude of groups that operate in the eastern parts of Congo. We are not really placed to discuss the various groups that are involved in the DRC. What we can talk about are the elements that threaten the security of Rwanda, and these are the XFAL
Right.
and RN elements who would operate in that area.
But this is...
Those are the people that about.
But this, you feel, is a situation that is largely contained and you've been managing adequately?
Yes, we have. We've managed, and we're working very closely with the government of the DRC to ensure that we protect our borders from any incursions by the rebels.
All right, so final word. You have nothing to do with the group that's being described as M23 that carried out these attacks this past weekend, and you're not involved with any rebel groups at this time in that country?
Absolutely.
All right, let's turn to Mozambique. What's the situation now? What phase are you at in terms of managing the insurgency that became such a problem for the country towards the north?
We are still, of course, carrying out security operations, and we are slowly engaging in stabilization and some few elements of security sector reform. We are working closely with SADC to ensure that the elements of the insurgents that cross from our area of operation into the SADC area of responsibility are dealt with. We are sharing intelligence. We are providing specific leads whenever they cross to their area of operation. So there is a good relationship with SADC in terms of dealing with these elements that keep crossing our respective areas of operation.
Is there a fear that some of these insurgents are regrouping at a distance? Is this something that you are monitoring?
Yes, we are monitoring closely. And that's what security operations are all about. You have to maintain vigilance, constant engagement to ensure that these insurgents do not gain a foothold anywhere in the areas that we occupy. And that affects their ability to sustain their war effort. So our vigilance is clearly demonstrated in our relationship with Mozambique and SADC in ensuring that we deal with the problem from all angles.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed for that update. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Peter.